Hi ma'am, I'm Miguel Manalang and my group is composed of Kaye, Montilla and Allyssa Patricio. Our proposed title is South China Sea Dispute, Can a Multilateral Agreement Diffuse the Rising Tensions? The South China Sea dispute has been going on for decades. The ongoing dispute in the South China Sea are primarily caused due to conflicts in territorial claims and maritime claims as well by 6 countries in the South China Sea. And in the recent aggressions and militarization done by China has caused the heated disputes within the region to rise. And China's President Xi Jinping vowed that China would not militarize the islands within the South China Sea. But in contrast of their vows, China built infrastructures in these islands. However, in March 2017, China completed a concrete building and structures that houses anti-aircraft missiles, and they already imposed an air defense identification zone, which they clearly violated the Declaration of Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea. The researchers aimed at the study will provide or can provide possible solutions by thoroughly analyzing sources from different authors of bilateral relations, negotiations, and proposed settlement for the dispute in South China Sea, or by the Southeast Asian countries, and thus formulating a proposed multilateral agreement or negotiation that aims to suffice the interests of both ASEAN countries and China and to resolve the rising tensions in the South China Sea. The scope and the limitation of this study focuses and is limited on the disputes within the South China Sea. The following are the scope. The researchers will gather from different sources on different bilateral relations between China and ASEAN member states. It shall be used as basis on the end of the study for the policy recommendation. Number 2, this study takes on what action ASEAN has taken in order to resolve the disputes in the past years. Number 3, this study aims to show the lack of multilateral agreement, which shows that ASEAN is not akin to its motto of being one ASEAN. On that, the researchers will use this as a ground to come up with recommendations to resolve the dispute. For the limit of the study is only limited in the different perspective of ASEAN countries and the ASEAN organization as a whole. This will not include the Western perspective of the European Union and the United States of America, and also we will not include the Chinese perspective, since sources in Chinese perspective are written in Mandarin and language is a barrier. The outcome of this study that will be conducted by us, the researchers, will not only be beneficial for the Philippines but also to the surrounding ASEAN countries, because the researchers believe that the dispute can be stopped in a peaceful manner. The researchers' aim in this study is not only to provide insight on the escalating issue, but to propose a multilateral agreement between ASEAN states and China, since there is a lack of it in the region.
So let's move to the next chapter, the second chapter, which is the review of related literature. We all know that China is a dominant power in Asia, and that it has been an economic tiger. Due to its power, China have started to act more assertive and aggressive to guard its sovereign rights and territorial integrity in the region by trying to claim the contested waters of the South China Sea to be as their own. Busisinki, Hong, Marwa, and Bouquet have similar claims that China's assertive behavior is a consequence of its dominance in Asia. The claims of these authors are connected to our study because it helps us understand why China is behaving in an assertive manner. The reason why China seeks to claim sovereignty over the South China Sea is due to the fact that China managed to become a dominant power, and because of that, they can acquire possession through the use of unilateral actions. So the topic to be discussed in the literature review will be classified into different categories pertaining to the South China Sea's current situations, China's bilateral relations to different ASEAN or ASEAN member states, different solutions regarding the disputes, and the conflicts and dilemmas within the ASEAN towards China. So let's go to the first in line, which is the current situations.
Pertaining to the current situation, the researchers have gathered different literatures that show the current situation in the South China Sea. Literatures showing how China tries to dominate and claim the South China Sea. It also shows current actions and mechanism of the Philippines on the said dispute. Current situation not only in the South China Sea are reviewed, but also economic situation that help reveal how China became a dominant power in terms of economic circumstances. The literature reviews regarding the current situation help us understand why China is behaving on such an assertive manner. We choose this in our RL in the current situation in the South China Sea dispute because as we speak today, China will fight its historical claim, the South China Sea, and the claimant state will also fight for their rights over EEZ. In discussing the dispute in the area, China will agree in finalizing the binding of COC if the ASEAN member states have already settled its problem and will not request any support from other countries outside the region. Next is bilateral relations. Reviewing literatures about China's bilateral relations help us to know how China strategized to build relations, connections, and negotiations with other ASEAN member states. Bilateral relations are China's way of building relations since it is economically interdependent to the ASEAN. Also, upon reviewing the literature, bilateralism is one of the reasons why China dominated the ASEAN. This is connected to our study since it is about policy recommendation. Studying how China strengthened its relation with others can help us to come up to a solution regarding the heated dispute. In the different solutions, our literature review will show how China and ASEAN propose solutions to disputes such as joint developments, memorandum, framework of agreement, and the creation of the conduct of parties. Just a little backdrop. November of 2002, China and ASEAN have co-signed the framework agreement on comprehensive economic cooperation, which led to a free trade agreement that enhances the economic cooperation and integration of China and the ASEAN in the year of 2010. Well, this agreement is typical response since there are an emerging number of developments over the past decades. The different solution also showed how China and ASEAN compromised to meet halfway. That is why they ended up on the Declaration of Conduct of Parties. Cooperation towards conflict resolution was not very successful. That's why each ASEAN member state has been dealing the issue diplomatically and independently. We have gathered different conflicts and dilemmas upon reviewing our chosen literatures. We saw different tension in the South China Sea. That led to an ASEAN plan. The plan is to counter the threat of territorial disputes by taking quick developments to strengthen diplomatic ties with China and other partner countries like Korea and Japan. These nations have signed the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia. According to York, this treaty became a platform to create cooperation and unity. China is committed to ASEAN through bilateral negotiation. Negotiations are the key to resolving the disputes, though there are still numerous concerns about the agreement between China and the ASEAN member states to specify in the Declaration on the Code of Parties regarding the South China Sea. Even if China works with the ASEAN member state, it will not welcome joint sovereignty of the institution and the region itself since China is holding strong on protecting its core interests, which are sovereignty, protection, people rights, and territorial integrity. And the only way to maintain peace and security in the ASEAN is if all of the claimants make a strong and diplomatic effort to oppose China's assertive behavior in the area.
So we chose these literatures for our RRL because they are aligned with our topic, problem, and scope. Because of these literatures, we have analyzed our problem so well that it gave us the idea that multilateralism might be the answer to resolve the disputes. So to sum it all up, in our conclusion, the review of related literature showed that China is a great influence and a dominant power in Asia, more specifically in the ASEAN region. It also showed how China is an economic tiger and how it dominated the ASEAN region economically. So it also showed that the South China Sea disputes concerns Philippines and China more rather than the other ASEAN member states, but because that China is economically interdependent in the ASEAN, it too concerns the whole ASEAN region since China built bilateral connections in each of its member states, and not to mention, there are also other claimants of the South China Sea in the ASEAN. So this just proved that ASEAN and China lack multilateralism in their negotiations and solutions to resolve the heated disputes in the contested waters. So let us now move on to the next chapter.
For our Chapter 3 in methodology, we have used document analysis for our research design and method, and we have used this to gather and analyze the data we have used in Chapter 2. We use document analysis since it uses a systematic procedure that analyzes different documentary evidence to answer specific research questions. Document analysis requires repeated review, examination, and interpretation of data and sources in order to gain meaning or empirical knowledge on the construct being studied. Thus, we decided and thought that it is best suited for our study since we expect that at the end of our research, we will be able to come up with a multilateral agreement that is aimed to resolve the dispute in the South China Sea. And for our framework, we have chosen Conceptual Framework, since a conceptual framework illustrates what we expect or what you expect to find through your research. It defines the relevant variables for your study and maps out how they might be related to each other. So we decided that is best fitting for our research. And this is our conceptual framework, our proposed conceptual framework. For our independent variable, we chose it as the South China Sea dispute. And for our dependent variable is the resolution of the dispute. And for our mediator variable, lack of ASEAN as an organization to resolve the dispute. And for our moderator variable, lack of multilateral agreement of ASEAN states and China. For our research subjects, we have gathered our data through different documents or scholarly sources that tackles, presents, give insight on the South China Sea dispute, as well as presents the agreements of each individual in the Southeast Asia with China. So that is it for our research proposal, and thank you for listening, and we hope that you have understand the heart of our research and what we want to tackle. And a quick reminder that this is just a proposal and everything in it is still revisable. And thank you again for listening.